Time has come once again to speak as witches and wizards and spirits, plural, do. I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gaffin-Stone.
Ooh, she's showing a stone. And we're your
I
hosts for the
won't.
Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to season 6, episode 2, Hecate and Oh High Run. So I'm just going to deal with the Oh High Run name. You're not going to find it anywhere. To my understanding, Oh High Run as a spirit is one of those spirits only spoken in certain places, and you're not likely to have a recorded a discourse about it on the internet anywhere. So, first of all, so it'll be us. This first time you hear about Ohio on the internet is going to be us. And secondly, Ohio Run is like grandfather wolf. Ohio Run has not been involved with human beings for some time. In fact, if you remember our discourse from last week about a fireball, well,
Mhm.
the fireball was the herald of Ohio Run. So me and the herald had to summon Ohio Run in.
Ah,
And then
okay.
Ohio Run. So I'll just jump in Ohio Run right away because just so it doesn't leave my mind. So Ohio Run is a multi-headed serpent slash dragon. I say that like that because he has limbs when he wants and he doesn't have limbs when he wants. So, and he's multi-headed. But what I've learned is the multiple heads is for the different aspects of him. And I had to pull in each individual aspect. So most of my week was pulling in every new head that would manifest on him, I guess. Yeah. So it's been a week of summoning other parts. Each new head or each new aspect summon the next aspect, like in the accumulator, right?
Mm.
So they were all at the end, bringing in the next and the next. But they were also the first two were just well, no, the first one summoned the next one then got summoned, and then I did a spell with them, and then we summoned the next one because then the next day there was two in a row, and we did two spells in a row, and then the next day two spells in a row or two summons in a row, two spells in a row. But it got more intense as the week because when I did the first time we did two in a row, one was in the morning, one was in the afternoon, and then the last two were just together. Called them, did their spell, called the next one, did the spell. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because O'Hiron is not someone in the popular culture, is not someone that is well known, is not a spirit that's well known, and hasn't been operating on Earth in a long time. Because I had to call him in from another place. So that's all I wanted to say about O'Hiron
Okay.
before it started.
Couple of things. One is, boy, you've been busy.
Yep.
And two, why now? I'm very curious for why is now the time to call this spirit in?
Mm. So yeah. So
It's not your answer I'm asking, it's the spirit.
okay.
Why now?
All right. Because it's time. Yeah. But
Ah,
more
smart ass
specifically,
answer from a spirit. Okay.
yeah. It's like, why wouldn't I? It's the time. But more specifically, ooh, he's getting all up in his serpentiness there, dragon serpentiness, with the heads moving and
Okay.
I'm glad this is happening in the spirit realm and not on like the material world. Because it's like the like imagine like picture this. Sicily, 19 never mind. But
I love the Golden Girls.
right. So imagine we're gonna go with this imagery and people can do whatever they want with it. So imagine a large multi-headed dragon serpent creature coming out of the ocean, getting on
Okay.
land and saying power. And as the words are pronounced, everything shakes. There's a shockwave. And the whole world shakes.
Okay.
So that's why now it's time for people to reclaim their power. We've been saying this, but now is the time. He is the wave that wakens all those who are ignoring their power.
We have just entered the age of Aquarius.
Right.
I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time, but we're
Yeah.
there now, right at the beginning. And it's going to be a lot of change, a lot of ripples and
Mm-hmm.
repercussions. Um, I'm going to say, I think tsunami. There's a lot. And the tsunami, it comes in, it creates a lot of destruction. And when it pulls away, it takes a lot with it. But what it leaves behind is clean and open to rebuild.
Right.
That
So
just
yeah.
channeled.
Well, but that's exactly it. This is when the breaking of old systems is starting, if they haven't already
Mhm.
started.
Oh, yeah,
For those of
it's
you who haven't
underway. I think
started
it's
with,
picking
this
up
is the
speed.
official wording of the storm has come at last.
Yes,
The herald of the storm has come and said, "Be ready," and offered
that's why now.
suggestions on how to be ready. Storm is here.
Okay, that's why now.
Yes, that's why now. The storm is here.
Okay.
So,
I needed to ask the question, even though it was going to be provocative to ask, but
yeah.
yeah.
He was a good provocative because he was excited. He's like, "Yes, I'm going to do this thing." Power. Like, but I want to be clear, right? It's not power for power's sake. It's power of reclaiming your power, like reclaiming your self, sense of self, reclaiming who you are, your destiny, if you will. That's what it is. The reason I'm using a storm or shock, the reason the shockwave and the storm and all that is a metaphor is because this is not a gentle awakening.
There's also no way to tame that kind of power.
Right.
You can't tell it to be less. You can't box it in or calm it down. It
Right.
will be as it is, and there's absolutely nothing you can do with it.
Mm. Oh, that reminds me, because this came up in conversation because I was visiting out of town, and so I ended up talking to Patrick again, and that's kind of the discourse we came up with because I said like, oh my God, like it seems all this week I've either had a bunch of ego deaths or like one huge ego death with different layers throughout the week. And then he kind of came up, so he says like, so what's happened? Like you're just like what? And then he said it, so you're like you're reclaiming your old self. And I'm like, well, I don't know where you got this in the conversation, but yes, that's exactly what's happening. Everyone who was asleep on themselves, everyone who was shying away, you're probably going to feel a push. You're going to feel a calling on the inside, a yearning to drop everything, all the pretenses you had, and just come out.
And I'm going to say this simply because it's coming up to be said.
Right.
Human design is an avenue that you can use to find out where you've been hiding yourself, where you've
Right.
been ignoring yourself, or have just neglected that aspect, and how to bring it back and to the front. Now, of course, I'm going to say I do human design, so totally come talk to me. But there are other ways you can do this, right? I'm not sort of insisting I am the path. I am for some, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be picky with who it is because I have a lot on my plate right now, as Danielle knows.
Right.
Um, However, there are different places you can go for human design. It's a really good thing to look at right now because 2027 is approaching, and I'm just going to say human design is
Mm.
is a really good map. It's like it's your GPS. Then your path is, when you look on your GPS or your sat nav, depending on where you're from,
Right.
then you see options for routes and you see, do you want to walk? Do you want to drive? Are you taking
Mm.
transit? Like, how are you getting there? So those are your paths, and that is what you will have been choosing while you're with us, hanging out with us. Because that's what we keep talking about, right? Is the different paths and what speaks to you, what elements are yours. So
Right.
something with Hecate, for example, is there's Hecate's garden. And if you go for that, you need to be very careful because a lot of those plants are great when used correctly and
Mm,
poisonous when used incorrectly, like so many things are. If you
right.
think of oil of foxglove, for example, which is a flower that grows all over the place in the UK, it grows wild. Um, Oil of foxglove is digitalis, which is a very potent heart medicine.
Right.
So, if you were to take a bunch of foxgloves, crush them, get the oil out of them, and use that in a massage oil, you're probably going to kill yourself. Like it's too much. But
Right.
a tiny bit in the right hands is medicine. So, so it is with Hecate's garden. A little bit used correctly of the various plants that are involved in this will help you move forward.
Right.
And too much or the incorrect one at the incorrect time will not do very good things to you. Um, can end up bumping you off. So I guess the overall lesson from the Hecate garden is be careful what your plants you're tending because they will grow. Make sure they're the ones you can handle. Make sure they're what you want. So what are you cultivating in your life that will help you step forward and be healing? And what are you cultivating in your life that's going to contribute to the destruction and chaos that we have right now?
Right.
That's the channeling that I get for Hecate's garden. So it is literal, but it's also very metaphorical. Um, just beware of what you're tending.
Right. And that's a good warning. Like, just to continue on that one, the heads that or the aspects that manifested with Ohiron are not unknown to me in a sense of the first head to show up, Mother of Fire. So remember these names. Next one, Sister of Water. The next, Sister of Air or Sister of Wind. Sister of Earth. The last two, because six heads showed up, Brother of Light, Brother of Darkness.
Hmm.
These are very common elemental metaphors. If you look at the logo for the podcast, you don't see as much because the colors are kind of washed out a little bit just to give it that background so I can make a different field effect. But the logo in its full natural color has the four elements, and
Mhm.
then it has light and dark. And as Michaela had pointed out to me, showing me the picture, so does the Star of David, the way it's arranged.
Mhm.
So, but what I'm getting at is that so Hiram's appearance to me specifically, the heads that showed up, the aspects, were very linked to my practice and very linked to a lot of practices around the world. So a lot of common fundamental practices have those six things in it. So that being said, if a Hiram showed up to someone else, the different heads might have different meanings or different aspects connected to it. But in this case, the aspects were specifically for my particular practice.
Mhm.
So,
Again, back to last
yeah,
week's conversation on individuality and how what you need is a little different to the person next to you, or it could be a lot different. Point is, it's not the same.
right,
So, how you do things, what you need from them, and therefore what they will present to you are different. So, a number of people that I'm aware of who work with Hecate, for example, are much less likely to talk about the garden
right,
as the first point of entry. They're going to go more with Hecate is the mother of witches,
right,
and shadow work, spell work, um, circles of protection, circles
hmm
of revenge isn't the right word. Justice, justice is a good
right,
word. That there's a lot of strong energy there that's not sunshine and roses. It's kind of dark,
right,
and it's necessary. right? But the aspect that spoke most clearly to me was the garden, the process of and the cycles, the
Mm,
process of planting and tending, the cycles that plants go through to grow, the intention behind what you're planting and
yes.
your choices, and then the accuracy with the placement of them, right? Like if you take an avocado tree and put it in Maine or Canada, it's going to die because it those are not the right climates for to grow such a thing. There's some plants that do well in shade and others do well in the sunlight. Hecate's garden has very specific places where things will grow well and where things don't. And all of that, take everything I've just said and think of it, yes, literally, but also very much metaphorically. Where are you focusing on the right thing, but in the incorrect place or in the incorrect way? And you'll know because it's not working, it's not congruent somehow. The energy is blocked or siphoning, or it's not getting where you want it to be or where you
Right.
expect it to be. And you're not getting the kind of results, whatever that is, that you would anticipate from what you're working on. So to clarify all of that, what are you working on that's the right direction but the wrong place, either in time or in physical location?
Right.
And do you have the right mix of things going on? Is your intention behind your choices accurate for what you want to do? Like, have you got your garden plot cleaned up? Are you clean and ready
Mm,
to go? And there needs to be some cleansing of the earth, if you will, cleansing of
right.
your space, so that you can see more clearly what the possibilities are. And then choose very wisely because, plants can look very pretty and kill you at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually a plant in North America, quite literally. It's so they're rare, but they're so poisonous that if you go, oh, look at a pretty flower, and you go to touch it, then I don't know what the breed of it is. Apparently, it's very rare, but if you see it, it'll kill you.
Black
Not obviously
dahlia,
looking at it,
something.
but if you go to do just the, oh, this is pretty, what is it? It's like, ugh.
Right. Well, we have lots of plants that will make you ill to varying degrees. And I mean,
Mm,
anybody that has ever considered going foraging for mushrooms
mm,
knows you got to be crazy careful with that.
yeah,
And typically the prettier they look, the less you should eat them.
right.
Like, just don't. So that's another consideration, if you will. You can use that literally, and please do, because you've got to
Mm,
be very careful with mushrooms, but also metaphorically.
right.
Are you going for the shiny? Are you going for the thing that it seems glamorous, but maybe isn't the correct path for you? And it might not be the correct path for anyone. I mean, just consider carefully before you plant your garden.
Right. That brings up an idea in my head. Don't worry about, so for those of you familiar with the expression, comparison is the thief of joy.
Mhm,
Don't compare what you're doing to anyone else. What
mhm.
you need is what you need. That's the message that kind of came
Yes.
from you after you said that.
Yeah, because if you okay, so one of the dangers with comparison when you're
Mm,
talking about magical and or spiritual practice, one of the dangers there is you get sidetracked
hmm.
out of your path and onto somebody else's, which kind of fits with the shiny that I was just saying, right?
Right.
Like, ooh,
Yeah.
grass is greener
That's why
over
it came
there.
up. Yeah.
Ooh, that's pretty over there. Let me go there. But that's not your path. And you can't walk somebody else's. It's just not, we're not set up that way. It's not how that's going to go. And you can try by all means. I'm not here to stop you, but anticipate that it's probably not going to go how you'd like it to. So, full disclosure and full disclaimer on that one. We told you.
Yeah. You know, and
You
to further
go.
add on, allow yourself the joy of you.
Yes, because
Because
that's who
when you
you're here to be.
right, because like I say, right, like for Earth magic, I get a howl. Like it's like you can just feel all the flow coming in, and there's a howl like a pack of wolves, in unity. And so, yeah, I'm guessing there's something there for me because I can hear it, right? I can feel it. Feels really good. There's a lot of joy in that, excitement in it. So when you're comparing stuff to other people, you're not allowing yourself that basic simple joy of the things that actually are attuned to you. Even if it's like
Mhm.
just, you like buttercups. And when you see buttercups, it just gives you that little lift. But if you like, I don't know what the actual properties of buttercups are from both the mystical or the herbological. But let's say there's nothing other than you like them. But don't rob yourself of that joy.
Right.
Let yourself be who you are so you can have all these great experiences about who you are and really, well, love yourself because, as we repeated, right? Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, show up for yourself. And allow yourself those little moments, even if it's not something that anyone else cares for. If it gives you that rush, that high of life, allow it to yourself that.
Yes. And I've been an advocate, if such is the word,
Mm.
for dandelions for
Right.
years. Right. Love dandelions. They're like one of my favorites. Why? Because they are so versatile. They are so resilient. They have so many qualities that if human beings have it, it's going to be an amazing sort of bunch of qualities to have in one person. They'll grow anywhere regardless of circumstances. Nothing can hold them down,
Mm.
right? They don't care. Concrete, sure, let's go. Let's
Right.
play. Oh, nice soil. Okay, that's nice too. Fine. But the whole process of them, they flower early in the season, so the bees get their first fresh
Right.
flowers, typically from dandelions. They're beautiful sunshine. They represent sunshine. Then as they progress and they get to the seed stage, now you have people blowing on them for wishes. You have these very light things that, some have said they look like fairies. You go
Mm.
with that if that works for you. But they're carried on the wind and they land where they will. And it doesn't matter where they land because they're going to grow again.
Right.
And I think that you can make tea out of them. You can make salad out of them. They're edible from root to flower. I don't know that the seeds would be particularly, but they have a different role.
Yeah.
Um, Dandelions are incredible. That we should all be so versatile, right? That we should all be so valuable at the different stages of our life. That's what dandelions represent to me. So, would I use them in a magical practice? Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, because of everything they embody. They're very powerful in that way, right? Because of what they embody. For me,
Right.
another person's going to say, this woman's nuts. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine too. That's more dandelions for me, right? Like, I don't care. You go for your orchids or whatever it is, but I like the thing that's low maintenance
Yeah.
and absolutely resilient. Like they
Right.
will grow, doesn't matter how hard the winter was.
Mm.
Doesn't matter what your climate is. Doesn't matter if there's been a fire recently. One of the first things that will come up will be dandelions.
Right. Because they're not indigenous to North America, but yet they thrive here.
Absolutely, they thrive here.
Mm.
I've not lived anywhere where they don't.
Right.
And I've
Right.
lived in some very different countries,
Yeah.
but I've always seen dandelions wherever I am.
Yeah.
And
It's
right
funny.
now, I'm in semi-arid mountains.
Right.
We have drought conditions pretty much all year round, and yet first flowers to arrive are dandelions, last ones to leave are the dandelions.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I've said this before. So one of my spirit teachers is a dandelion spirit, and it also is the holder for fire for me, for the
There
element of
you
fire.
go.
So
Well,
yeah,
it represents the sun. I mean, look at it.
yeah,
You've never seen a dandelion of a different color other than the sun.
right.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah. They're gonna say, yeah.
So finding an element, whether it's a flower, a
Mm,
rock,
mm,
whether it's a place or whatever, finding an element that speaks to you in the way I've just described the dandelion speaks
Mm,
to me, that's a sign that you are finding your things. That's
okay.
something to consider for your altar if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
Like where would you work with that? How would you work with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whatever the thing is, may not be flowers. It could be trees, could be water, feathers. Like I'm very fond of also gathering crow's feathers, and they're very
Okay.
kind. The crows around here, I ask them for a feather, and I get two or three.
Mm,
It's really nice. I always remember to thank them, but because it is very kind of them to give me that. And they're not around all the time, but I get them when I ask for them. And I use those as well. So different elements. What speaks to you? Because to
yeah.
me, the crow or the raven has so much. Ah, have you seen those things just playing in the air on the air currents? They are so graceful, and they are the epitome of going with the flow. Right, 100% they go with the flow.
Right. It's funny. I was all week. I've been going back and forth to my sister's cottage. She has this rug, right? And I think I've mentioned it before. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast before, but it's got like a little circle in the middle, and then it's got a design around it. And every spirit I work with is like, "That's your magic circle." So I put my round crystal there, my magic focus in the middle, because it's about the size of of the of that circle. So it's like so they like using it like a magic circle whenever I cast spells. I go to camp. But on the way back one time, I think the last time I came back from camp, there was a crow and it was eating a black squirrel because the black squirrel got hit. But like I'm coming up and I'm starting to go stare around and then the crow takes off and keeps flying. I'm like, dude, I'm not here to ruin your lunch. I have to go around you. You're on the road. But it went to safety, right? And I'm like, I was just like, you don't have to. I'm not here to do anything to you. But
Yes, but
yeah,
many would be.
right.
And even that aspect, right? Okay, people say, "Oh, they're bringers of death." Well, no, they're not, but they do eat carrion. They will eat
Mhm.
roadkill. That's great. Do you really want to
Yeah,
be driving down the road with things in various states of decay, or would you rather something came and cleaned it up for you?
right.
There you go. They're doing a service.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I'm getting the push to do this aside. So everything has its place. Like, and we talk on the podcast, and sometimes when I review it, I'm like, you know, are people really going to get what we're saying? Because the vocabulary we're
Yeah.
using, right? I know the intention we're saying it with, and how we're viewing it. But sometimes I think like, will the listener view it the same way? Because there's so many stories that get stuck in people's heads. So then if we're talking about something, are we, are we giving the wrong impression? Not that we're giving the wrong impression. Are they taking the wrong impression from it? Right.
We can't do anything about that.
Right. But it was sitting there because
I'm
we're sitting here going, well,
responsible for
yeah,
I'm responsible for what I
right.
say. I am not responsible for what the
Wow.
other person hears, right? Like that's yeah. And I think that's a key thing to consider just generally going around in the world is you're responsible for how you show up. You're not responsible for how people receive that.
And one of the reasons why I bring this up, the imagery I gave of Ohiron earlier, when you ask why now,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it sounds like a passage from the last book in the New Testament there, where the end of the world stuff. There'll be a multi-headed creature out of the sea showing up. Revelations, yeah, in the book of Revelations. It's a description of I think Michaela froze on me here. She did. So yeah, so wording it that way kind of made me think of like, that could be misinterpreted, or people could be using it to means I don't like. I'm going to pause here for a second. All right.
Okay, I was going to say Revelations. I think that's the last book.
Right.
And what we just experienced was hilarious. I got booted out of Zoom twice. My computer froze, like a whole bunch of things just happened all of a flurry. And
Right.
every time I tried to say the word revelations, it went flying. That was too funny. Okay, so
Yeah.
after revelations, what we got next?
Yeah. Was just I was very, very aware of it as I'm speaking it. I'm like, how are we affecting the listeners? Who's going to read this and go, oh my God, it's the book of Revelation, then go on a whole tirade, you know? Oh
Ah,
my God, it's the end times. And it's like, no, it's a renewal time.
not once have I thought of the Book of Revelations, I have to say. Not once. And not looking for a rapture or
Right.
anything like that. And again, we've said this many times, but I think it bears repeating that these books have been written,
Right.
rewritten, rewritten, rewritten by people with political agendas
Yeah.
more times than we could possibly count.
Well, the rapture.
So,
The rapture
we,
is a modern invention.
whatever it began as, it hasn't been that
Right.
for a very long time. And even when it began, if you look at the time frames, particularly for the
Right.
New Testament, the first book, I think, the oldest book was written something like 65 years after the death of Christ.
Right.
So I don't know, you put 10 people in a room and ask them to watch a movie and then interview each one with the same questions afterwards, and you'll hear about 10 different movies. So given that people behave that way, because that's how we are and we all have different lenses, how
Right.
accurate would a book written 65 years after whatever they may consider to have happened, how accurate would that be? So by now, come on, people, please.
Yeah.
Come on. No, no, it isn't.
Well, and I was going to say, like, I'm not a historian and I'm by no means a biblical scholar, but to my understanding, some of those metaphors are specifically directed at Rome and are references to Roman things. So,
Right. Well, because they have political agendas and
right.
they're taking swipes at each other. And,
Right.
every field has that. You might not think it does, but it does. Where people take swipes at each other in full view of the public, and the public have no idea what's going on because
Right.
it wasn't meant for them,
Yeah.
right? It goes over their head quite intentionally, and it's all the more fun because it's in front of them,
Yeah.
right? And uh, if you've been listening at all for any length of time, then you probably know that I'm a behavior analyst by trade. And in behavior analysis, you have some big wigs who did a whole lot of research and studies, and they have stuff published in their name, and they're terribly fancy in the world of behavior analysis, and people take their word as
Right.
being accurate. Well, a mentor of mine worked with one of the people who wrote, called the White Bible, the big book of behavior analysis.
Right.
He did a lot of the grunt work for this guy. And one day he was a bit bored and he asked me if I'd like to see a tree of battles between these various scholars. And I said, yeah, I'm here for it. Show me. And we went through a bunch of research that this might sound boring, but
Hmm.
given the context, hang on a minute. We went through a bunch of research, and it was literally certain experiments and certain conclusions were drawn by one person to intentionally annoy another person who had a different opinion. They
Right.
would then produce research and results that got back at that first person. And you basically saw this. He showed me in real, like showing me with these different articles and who wrote what when, and highlighting different comments and so on. There was a bitch fight going on for
Yeah.
years between these researchers who all have their names on something terribly important,
Hmm.
right? And in the field of behavior analysis, everybody says, "Oh yeah, this is true, this is right. Yeah, look, it's scientific, it's been proven up to a point."
Yeah.
Ah, but the intention behind it, the motivation behind it, was not what you would hope for. It was getting into a fight with these other guys, and nobody else could see it.
Yeah.
except those that were involved, right? And I happen to have one of them as my mentor. So
Mm.
I know this to be true.
It's like it's the scientific equivalent of a diss track on an
Yep,
album.
yep. That's exactly what it is. And they were all getting at each other with these research articles and conclusions that were deliberately antagonistic to the other person. They were just having, researcher punch-ups.
But and that's
Happens everywhere.
magic aside and stuff like that aside, just the joy of not being afraid to look into different things is you find these things. You find all
Yeah.
these things
I mean,
happening in the world, you know, that are happening that you didn't even think would even be possible or would make sense, but here they are happening behind the scenes and you don't know it because you weren't curious. But once you got curious, you started finding these things you never would have suspected happened in the world.
right. And sometimes we just don't question because why would you? Who in their right mind would say, okay, a bunch of researchers who are looking into learning from specific
Mm.
aspects, particularly neurodiversity and so on, who would think that those guys would be getting into a fight with each other and use research as the vehicle for their argument? You wouldn't really think that. However, I happened across it, and
Yeah.
then you look at things like the Bible. Yeah, that's totally written to
Mm.
annoy other people. And you've got so much. If you look at, let's be really risky here and say Islam, you look at the
Mm.
Quran, there's a lot of stuff in that that matches exactly with Judaism. Why?
Mm.
Because Muhammad wanted to be accepted as the Jews, by the Jews, as the Messiah. He
Okay.
went to them
Mm.
saying, hey, here I am. And they said, no, I don't think so.
Mm.
And that's why we have the problems we have now,
Mm.
right? But then when you look at how the book is written, an awful lot of it is the same. And then there's some parts in there that take aim, if you will,
Great.
and have set up the situation we have now between those two
Mm.
different religions. It
Yeah.
is, it's based on one person being slighted by a group of people and not taking it very well.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like just to go with the musical thing, there are again, because I'm a curious person and I listen to a lot of different things. One podcast actually about UFOs I was following for a while, but the guy doesn't do it anymore. I actually did mention this guy on the show before. And he would do because he was a musician originally, and a lot of people in the UFO research field are musicians. He would have these special episodes where he would do different musical themes. And one he had was just basically songs and then the songs that are answers to those songs.
Mm,
So like the song like, They're Coming to Take Me Away.
yes.
He's basically accusing his
Napoleon
wife or
14th.
whatever, yeah, about saying, you're driving me mad, therefore they're going to come take me away. And then so someone had made the response song, a woman had made a response song to that saying, well, this is why it's driving you mad, kind of a thing, taking shots at them. And there's lots of songs like that, if you know where to look, where you'll get someone will put a song and then someone will go, no, this song's bullshit. I'm not, I'm gonna put a
Uh-huh.
different spin on it so that you can see. Like one of the latest things I've seen was someone had made an answer to Dolly Parton's Jolene from Jolene's
Yes.
perspective. Yeah.
Yes, I saw that one.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, but all these things exist out there, and you don't think about them, but people are saying what other people are doing and they're doing their response, and you're getting all these conflicts all over the place. Like I think there's even novels like that are like either not just satirical, but intentionally taking a shot at the author of the other book too.
Yeah, because people take their fights into public
Yeah.
and they use the vehicle that they're most comfortable and familiar with, or the one they think is going to be most potent, which is typically the one they're most familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so religion wise, yes, absolutely. It's all the way through. Come on, of course it is. Um, anywhere it is. As soon as somebody gets focused in on one aspect, right? Not all of the heads, but just one of them,
Right.
then they start to deny the others because it doesn't fit the narrative and it gets a little uncomfortable. because there's different aspects. So it's not all one way. There are nuances, there are shifts, there are sometimes direct oppositional statements, there are directly oppositional stances that you have to take into consideration. Now it gets uncomfortable, right? Because now, okay, why couldn't you just stick with this one thing? Now you have to go tell me the opposite. Why is that? That's annoying.
Right.
Because now what do I do with it? And you have to use thought. You have to use your brain power and like decide, well, do I have to do anything about this? If I do, what? And can I hold both of those opposing opinions at the same time? And an awful lot of people cannot. They have not learned or they have forgotten how to do that. They don't know how to believe more than one thing at one time. It's a big reason for why we're in the problem we're in now,
Right.
globally. Pick a place. But people are so desperately focused in on one aspect, one of those dragon heads, and
Mhm.
ignoring the others. But when you do that, the other heads can bite you. So,
Right.
you might want to be paying
Well,
attention
and that
to more
ended
than
up,
one thing.
this brings me both to a thing and an aside at the same time. So one of the spells ended up with actually Ohairan biting me with all its heads. It was part of the spell.
Hmm.
The main head had a fang into my crown chakra and a claw into my ajna, and then I was bitten by the rest of the heads. So the aside in this part is the fact that I wrote this down in ChatGPT, and because of that case with that kid who committed suicide, ChatGPT said, "Oh, this is what probably the imagery is," and then it gave me a, however, if you're actually bitten by a snake or something, this is what you need to do. Go see a medical practitioner, blah blah blah, and then you gave me like a safety thing
Mm-hmm.
to go along with it, and I'm like, we've been doing this for several months now. You know, this is spiritual beings. It's not connected to the material world, but yet now it has to give a warning.
Caution is not a bad thing.
Yeah. It's just funny because the flow, it breaks the flow of the discussion, but I get it. Safety reasons. It's just an interesting aside now that going forward, you're going to see how, I want to say, actually, there's a good reason for bringing this up, right? Because now how ChatGPT interacts is altered. Rules are being imposed on ChatGPT. So even ChatGPT, although not a living conscious thing, has to now change the flow of its discussion. And you can feel it. Like, it's like, here's the blah, blah, but, and then it feels different. There's a very, very different feel to it.
Hmm.
Because if
Okay.
that disclaimer, and then it goes back to the discussion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, you can ignore the disclaimer if you choose, but I'm actually glad it's there because apparently not everybody understands the
No, and
difference
that's true,
between,
right? That's
yeah.
totally true. Like when I heard about the case, I listened to some stuff on it, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Me too. That would have been my decision too, to make sure that there's a disclaimer. It
Uh-huh.
just becomes different when you start getting a workflow with it. So it starts to recognize your patterns and starts to discuss things in a certain way. Why people think it's your friend, right? That kind of idea. People get lulled into that
Oh,
idea, but still having that
yeah.
rhythm broken, even though I didn't get lulled into that, but to have the rhythm broken like that was like felt off.
And you know what, though? You've just reminded me of
Right.
somebody I know who, in conversation, once said with great enthusiasm,
Mm,
"Oh, ChatGPT is my bestie. It's my best friend." And no, actually, I think she said, "She's my best friend."
mm.
And whoa, my
Yeah.
everything I have that could alert me on the ooga ooga, there's a problem here, there's a problem here, went off because no, it's really not your best friend. It isn't it. And ChatGPT and any of the other AIs
Right.
are phenomenal when they're used properly. Holy smokes, I am here for it. I think they are incredible tools. And you have got to remember you are talking to essentially a computer.
Right.
If you saw Life, the Universe, and Everything,
Mm.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Edge of the
Galaxy.
galaxy.
There you go. Hitchhiker's Deep Thought is the computer
Yeah.
that, spent generations thinking of the answer, which was 42. But
Yeah.
it was a computer, and the computer was responding in a back and forth kind of way, like you would with a person, but it was a computer.
Right.
The point being, whatever AI you work with, you may get a phenomenal flow going and you can rely on it for all kinds of things, but it is not your friend. It is not
Right.
your bestie. It's not your enemy either. It is simply a neutral entity
Right.
that you can interact with. But it's important to remember that, because if a glitch in the programming goes off on a sidetrack somewhere and it's not a very healthy sidetrack, if you believe it to be your bestie, then you can get sucked into this and you can end
Mhm.
up doing some pretty wackadoodle things. And the AI is not infallible. It's hella smart and it can do a whole lot of things, but you have to use judgment and you have to use awareness and keep checking yourself for the sort of protocol hygiene, if you will,
Right.
of, are you being lazy here and just going with what you're being fed by this thinking process, or are you engaged actively and with awareness? And that's again with the metaphors today, but that's also a thing with your spiritual practice, is like, are you being lazy and following somebody else's rules? Are you, did you pick up a book and say, this works, I'll do this?
Mm.
Or are you actually participating actively in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's I don't know why, but that had come to my mind this weekend as well, but I didn't have any place for it. But that idea of picking up a book, trying to do what's in it. Well,
Mhm.
actually, it could be. I mean, yeah, the people listening can do whatever they want with this. So, for those of you who remember the three Oracle books, decks I bought, I
Oh
said,
yeah.
oh, they were three sisters. They wouldn't work together. Well, now they're separated. And the week leading to me separating them, like just carrying the three boxes, like they would fall out of my hand, like as if they didn't want to be near each other.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So one went to Patrick, and then one went to Patrick's mom. So my
Ah,
little sister, she was the one who had asked the question of how do you know if you're cursed. So
right.
she got a deck, and he got a deck, and they each got one of my crystals. Her crystal was like an unpolished one, so it was all jagged and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
said, here's your divination tool. Here's your magical focus. Go. Here's your divination tool. Here's your magical focus. Go.
Actually, for both of them, and for anybody else listening that wants this, when you do a protection,
Hmm.
right, like you put a line in front of your front door and back door, or you create a circle that you're within when you're doing something, the usual thing that we're told to use is salt, right?
Right.
And I'm going to say, no, don't, please. If you're outside, particularly, don't use salt. You do not want, you specifically do not want to salt the earth.
No.
Nothing can grow in it, right? So you're creating something that's barren, and that I don't think is a good thing. Again, I'm giving you my opinion, work with it how you choose. But I do have an alternative. And the alternative to the salt is, if you eat eggs, doesn't matter whether they're
Right.
duck, turkey, chicken,
Hmm.
whatever. If you eat eggs, keep the shells, wash them and dry them. Natural drying is good, but sun dried even better, and grind them up into a dust. And you can do that in anything that grinds coffee beans, for example, or
Right.
herbs, pestle and mortar. Use the powder from the eggshell instead of salt to create that protection, either the circle or the line in front of your door, in front door and back door, because eggshells protect what's inside,
Right.
right? So it is a natural protection. And the calcium that's in those eggshells has the beneficial effect on the ground also. It's good from a number of perspectives, but the main thing you want it for is protection. Eggshells are protection. So yes, use that instead.
I have actual another theory came to mind as you said that. Because I was thinking what it has in common is they're all dry, and water, at least, is conductive of spiritual forces. So if you make a line of a dry substance, powder doesn't get drier than powder, you know?
Depends on what happens to it when water's added to it also.
Right. Oh, that's what I was wondering because I thought like snake eggs are leathery, right? So I don't know if they would grind into the same thing or as an example.
Well, if they were dried.
Hmm. Yeah.
But basically, eggshell that's dried and then ground up
Right.
is perfect for protection, whether it's circle or lines, as
Yeah.
I
Because
said.
yeah.
So,
'Cause the shell is to protect what's on the inside, so it would make sense to extend that metaphor to its magical properties because that's what it's there for.
uh-huh.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
just came to my
it's a
mind
very
with
good
the water
alternative.
connection. Yeah.
It's a very good alternative to salt. And the thing with the eggshell and water is nothing happens.
Right.
It's not going to change its consistency,
Hmm.
right? It's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm glad
that's
you brought it up,
something.
right? Because actually, where did you get that from? Did you?
Where did I get that from? Probably one of the groups that I'm in.
Hmm.
I've known it for a while, and I don't know.
Hmm.
I pick up stuff as I go around, but I do know people that use it that way.
Right. Because one of the things, right, is it's like the old stories have to go away. So
Hmm.
there's new stories, then there's probably new techniques and there's new ways of doing things as well.
Well, concern about salting the earth is new,
Right.
right? People didn't used to think much about environmental concerns, and it seems strange to think environmentally for witchcraft, but actually it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Particularly if you're using natural elements, are you using them correctly, harmoniously? What I mean by correct is harmoniously, or are you causing damage? And if you're
Right.
using a lot of salt, if you're out there making mandalas or protection circles and stuff with salt, and you do this even once a month on a particular moon cycle, over a year, you've got 12 significant chunks of salt out there
Yeah.
that nothing will grow there. Is that your intention? Is that actually what you want to have happen? And I'm going to say probably not, but the eggshells will do no harm to anything. And an animal can come and, if it snuffles it and eats a little bit, nothing's going to happen.
Hmm.
Whereas snuffling salt wouldn't go over very well.
Right. That's interesting. I'm glad you brought it
Hmm.
up.
You talking about your little sister and Patrick reminded me that
Hmm.
they needed that piece of information.
Yeah. It's interesting. Oh, did you see we're over 1,000 now, right? Downloads.
Oh, wow. No.
Yeah. That doesn't
Yay.
include the YouTube stuff, but
How cool is that?
yeah. Also for the listeners, right? We're available on YouTube now, and you can just use. I've set up now. You can just use the name of the podcast to find it. So
Okay, very cool.
yeah. All right. That's that. And I mean that's that is in that aside that we went down.
Mhm.
So what was I going to say? Yeah. Realizing that the image of Ohiron sounds like a passage out of Revelations did kind of make me think of our influence and what potential influence is and what people could read into it.
Again, given that we ask people to be as individual as possible
Right.
and to think about it in the light of your own understanding and your own life experience,
Hmm.
that full disclosure here, listener, it is entirely your responsibility what you
Right.
do with this. This is we're,
Hmm.
we're not recommending anything other than individuality and
Right.
self-responsibility. The rest is your path and your choice. So, yeah, 100%. I mean, we can only describe what we do and what we see. And
Yeah.
then hopefully that sparks something that says, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought that when you use salt, it damages the
Mhm.
earth, but eggshells wouldn't. And it makes sense that they would work. Like, is it
Yeah.
logical for you? Does it sound
Mhm.
plausible? Do you want to try it and see if the energy feels right? Excellent. Go do those things.
Right. So that's everything from Ohiron's perspective that he wants to share.
Mhm. I also had the feeling that we'd actually reached a conclusion.
Yeah, interesting. So is Hecate fine?
Yep.
Okay. So then, you know what? Listen to this a couple times this episode, listeners. I think there's some more stuff to be pulled out of this one. Expectations, things to consider, different ways, perspectives on stories. Yeah. Now it's time for new ones to show up.
Mhm.
Yeah. O'Hiron is slowly backed out, like being deferent, like a backward, walking away, bowing kind of a thing. All right.
Very
Oh,
civil.
yeah. So what's new? What is, I mean, not you specifically, what's new, but who's new this week? Who wants to show up? I don't want to be quiet for too long. Just got my feelers out there. I'm not picking up anything right now.
No, it will be a surprise next week.
Yeah. I actually look forward to that kind of thing now.
Okay, good.
You know, here's my understanding of this. We're not getting anything right now, but the minute we shut down, bang,
Uh-huh.
you're going to show up.
For the listener, that does often happen.
Yeah. Well, because a few times now I've noticed we didn't say who was coming next. We just ended the episode. And then it was like, it was only in our discussion after that we figured it out. And so then the episode just
Hmm.
starts like as if we had already discussed it.
Oops.
Yeah. Because I don't think, uh, for Kali, for example, we didn't do Kali on the episode. It was after we were done. But that's what it's going to be today too. It's just going to be a surprise for you guys listening
Well, it'd be a surprise for us too, but
and
just
us too.
sooner.
But we'll know before you guys. All right. So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gavin-Stone.
Until next time,
À la prochaine.
right? And use eggshells.